Hello, thank you for joining me today for this quick training on working with pest control operators to professionally manage bed bugs in residential housing. My name is Agurto Jr., and I'm a second-generation PCO based in San Francisco. To begin, I must give thanks to all the property managers, building owners, residents, and maintenance personnel that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last 20 years on this problem. When we first started working on these pernicious pests, we had to learn quickly what works and what doesn't work, against the bed bug and with residents. Fortunately for all of us, this body of knowledge is now well documented and has been demonstrated, both in the lab and in the field. My hope is that you will glean some insights from this presentation that you can incorporate into your proactive bedbug management plans for your buildings. A proactive and long-term strategy to manage and prevent pests is called Integrated Pest Management, or IPM for short. IPM is considered best management practice for the pest control industry. It is a knowledge-driven decision-making process. Unlike traditional pest control interventions that are reactionary and take a one-size-fits-all approach, IPM is a process that calibrates according to the need while seeking to minimize the risk from pesticides. To start an IPM program, it's essential to think of your stakeholders as your IPM team. Your IPM team includes your residents, property managers, your pest control service providers, and may include local enforcement agencies and outside help for your residents in getting prepared for treatment. In practice, we assemble this team through education and communication on a one-to-one basis, during the leasing process, and ideally throughout the year as reminders on the risk of accidentally bringing bed bugs home to the community and the team effort it takes to manage them. You likely already have a professional pest management contract that may not include bed bugs. It's a good idea to discuss with your current provider if they offer bed bug services and what they consist of. It could be that a small company does not have the resources to provide the comprehensive bed bug services you may require at some point. However, they can assist you with pest identification. They may also have experience working with other pest control companies that specialize in bed bug management. If you have a good relationship with your current PCO, they may be a good resource to help you prepare for what may come. Your pest control operator plays a key role in IPM. However, selecting a company that is proficient in bed bug management doesn't have to be a daunting task. There are some key indicators that you can look for by asking, what qualifications does the company have? Is the company qualified to work for hire as a pest control business in California? You can easily check by verifying their licenses with the Structural Pest Control Board. Just search Verify Pest Control License in your favorite search engine. Does the company have any additional certifications? There are 3 IPM certifications in the US that you can learn more about by searching IPM certification explained. Does the company's staff have any advanced certifications? The Entomological Society of America certifies entomologists, aka bug nerds, and our California-based EcoWise certification certifies individual practitioners. These certifications have their respective requirements of professional years of experience and demonstrated knowledge. What experience does the company have? How many years have they been in business? What is the experience of the staff that will be serving your property? What specific experience does the company have with bed bugs? And what's the company's reputation? What do your peers have to say about them? What does the Better Business Bureau or online ratings show? And can they provide you with customer references specific to bed bugs? You can gauge the value of their offering better if they can give you a written estimate and a scope of work, if you compare multiple estimates from competing companies. Remember, buyer beware. The lowest price is oftentimes not the best value. You ultimately want a service that will work, that you and your resident are happy with, and that you can depend on in the future. Bed bugs are people pests. They feed on your residents and live in their beds. You want a company whose employees can work with your residents and provide them the same level of customer service you'd expect for yourself. Does the staff listen to your concerns and address them with care and respect? Can the employees identify the pest, explain the extent of the infestation, and provide details about the pest and its behavior? There's inherent risk with entering and working in residents' private spaces. When managing bed bugs, this is compounded by the treatments performed and the handling of furniture and personal belongings. To manage the risk posed by these services, you should determine that the company has sufficient insurance to cover possible damage from the work performed. Observe them in action. Are they responsible about wearing personal protective equipment? They have a responsibility to protect themselves and the entire IPM team's health and safety with the proper use of their tools and equipment. It's time to prepare for bedbugs and formalize the team in the lease with a bedbug addendum. Bedbug notification is now the law of the land in California. Bedbug notification, described in Assembly Bill 551, provides residents specific information on bedbugs, how to prevent them, and the resident's responsibility to report them if they are suspected. I recommend including language for bedbug monitoring and the requirement of inspecting adjoining units when a unit is confirmed to have bedbugs. Pest monitoring is a key component of any IPM plan. Monitoring should occur regularly and as frequently as pest pressure indicates it is necessary. For example, in dense urban multifamily housing with a history of bedbugs, we monitor entire buildings at least quarterly. The monitoring inspections may include the use of traps to collect samples of what's crawling around the unit, and an inspection at the head of the bed and dust covers if they are present. In sites with less pest pressure, a building-wide inspection should occur at least annually to identify unreported pest activity and the conditions conducive to them. Conducive conditions that are in violation of the lease should be addressed before bedbugs come into the picture. Besides building your IPM team and keeping compliant with notification requirements, you can prepare your building by implementing pest prevention measures into the structure itself. Unfortunately, you cannot seal bedbugs out of the building as they will be introduced inadvertently when someone moves in, has a guest, brings home used furniture, or picks up bedbugs on their travels. You can, however, limit the spread of bedbugs to other units in your building by implementing pest prevention by design tactics. By sealing cracks and crevices within units, you can restrict the bedbug's ability to travel along electrical and plumbing lines to other units, and from hiding deep within structural components that obscure their populations and make them more difficult to control. The best times for implementing these simple prevention tactics is during new construction or remodels and at unit turnover. We've been fortunate to work with the City and County of San Francisco to bring these tactics to developers and builders in the city. The photo on the right shows two versions of pest prevention that are becoming common practice. The use of draft and acoustical sealants on the left, and the use of putty pads for fireproofing on the right. These tactics must be implemented before the wall covering is put up. However, when used, they provide the potential for long-term prevention of bedbug, cockroach, ant, and other arthropods from traveling up wall voids into other units. The photos on the left demonstrate the use of foam gaskets behind electrical plates. These gaskets compress when the faceplates are mounted and help keep bedbugs from entering the receptacle and wall void, like this cockroach did on this outlet that doesn't have a gasket. These gaskets, along with extensive sealants to fill cracks and crevices around baseboards, molding, and trim, can go a long way in keeping bedbug infestations at the surface and less challenging to remove. Ready or not, bedbugs will likely come. First, accept and perhaps give thanks to the resident for reporting the bedbugs. After all, a few bedbugs are much easier to control than thousands. Then schedule an inspection with your PCO as soon as possible. The PCO will need to inspect to confirm bedbugs or not. There are other pests and things that your residents may find in their beds. Baby cockroaches and sosids or book lice can easily be confused for bedbugs by a layperson, not a professional. Additionally, there are other pests that bite in conditions that cause bite-like symptoms. The pest control operator must provide a quality inspection of the affected sleeping area, be it a bed, couch, or floor. They should be able to rule out with a high degree of confidence that it's not bed bugs, depending on the condition of the area to be inspected and the time they have for the inspection. If they cannot determine what's biting your resident, they may leave monitoring traps that help catch things between follow-up visits. Some companies use trained and certified canine teams for bed bug inspections. These teams will indicate if a dog alerts to a bedbug odor. It is the responsibility of the licensed pest management professional to then identify the bedbug or its evidence to confirm the alert. This is the same standard used by police departments. Dogs alert, inspectors identify. The inspectors should be estimating the population size and the distribution of bedbugs as much as possible. Doing so will give the inspector a foundation for making site-specific recommendations and treatment plans. There are many obstacles to a successful treatment of bed bugs. The inspector should be identifying these obstacles during their inspection and factoring them into the treatment plan. Common obstacles we find in multi-unit housing are residents that are unable or unwilling to comply with preparation directions or even let the inspector in. In these situations, it is essential that the IPM team comes together to reach the residents where they are. Another common obstacle to a smooth treatment process are fragile furniture or personal items that the inspectors will need to interact with. It's important to identify these items up front and make a plan for them. Other common obstacles to sustained bedbug control are overcluttered or hoarded units, couch surfers or frequent overnight guests, residents that travel frequently, and pets. Each of these issues can be addressed through open communication and planning with the mutual goal of long-term prevention of bedbugs. I mentioned pets as they are a factor that must be addressed to prepare for treatment and at the time of treatment. They will likely need to be relocated during the course of the treatment so they are not exposed to chemical pesticides or extreme temperatures that can hurt them. It's important to remember that bedbugs are hitchhiking pests that can wind up in weird locations, which is why we want to control not only what comes into the unit, but also what goes out of the unit on treatment day. An anecdote I'd like to share with you illustrates precisely this potential obstacle to successful bedbug treatment. We were contracted to treat a one-bedroom apartment. During the initial inspection and interview with the resident, we learned that they had just moved into the apartment after having had a nightmare bedbug infestation follow them from 2 previous apartments. Most of their things were still boxed up, but they were getting fresh bites and close to a breakdown. Besides the beds and the clothes that they had been wearing, one of the few things that was not boxed up was a guinea pig cage. Our inspector asked if the guinea pig was new, and they said no, that they had moved the pet out of the unit on the day of each previous treatment. We inspected the cage and found an aggregation of bed bugs in the pet's bedding. The solution was very easy. The resident changed the pet's bedding and washed the cage in hot soapy water. It just took an inquisitive inspector and an open communication with the resident to finally resolve this difficult bedbug case. Although the treatment tactics used may be the same, chemical insecticides, thermal remediation, or fumigation, each unit has its own specific conditions and potential obstacles, so the treatment plan should be specific to the unit and the residents. With the understanding that the cost to remediate a bedbug infestation is likely to go up over time, it's essential that your treatment plan includes reasonable expectations for the residents' participation, what they can do given the time constraint. Too often, cookie-cutter preparation directions are given to residents that waste resources and may potentially reduce future cooperation. There are many approaches to bedbug control, so choose one that takes into account laundry and replacement costs and resident time. One factor that you should keep in mind is that many residents are physically incapable of complying with onerous treatment preparations, especially if their units are overcluttered or it's the middle of summer. I had the unfortunate experience of learning this firsthand too. A 3-bedroom apartment that we were contracted to heat treat was being used to store the residents' inventory for her retail business. Each bedroom had several large boxes stored around the room that limited our ability to reach areas for inspection, let alone with our treatment. The property manager gave the resident notice that these boxes presented a fire hazard, and they were instructed to move them out. The resident rented a storage unit, and her elderly husband was tasked with moving the items to storage. He worked for several days on this in the middle of summer. Then, one night he went to sleep, and he didn't wake up. It could have been that he was at the end of his life regardless. However, I've learned that the obstacles to control usually take time to build up and will likely take more time than anyone wants to wait to safely resolve them. We're better off finding alternative treatments that will still work or providing the assistance to residents to avoid the risks of overexertion. Some common preparation directions put the onus on the residents, asking them to bag and wash all their washables or to dispose of infested items and furniture. As I mentioned before, the preparation plan should be tailored to the conditions of the unit, the extent of the infestation, and the resident's ability to comply within a reasonable period of time. At minimum, the standard preparation for a service visit should include asking the resident to be at home at the time of service, to check in with technicians, and to report their observations, and to give the technicians a chance to inspect personal items that are being taken out of the unit on the day of treatment. Additionally, residents should be asked to clean up around their beds and in the living room. In particular, trash, food, and beverage containers should be removed from the spaces prior to the technician arrival to prevent spills and waste time navigating a messy space. Preparation directions will vary by the type of treatment provided. Treatments may be standalone services or combinations of tactics, such as chemical and thermal treatments. Chemical treatments typically call for organizing the room, moving items out from under the bed and around or touching the beds. Laundering the linens and other washables that have been exposed to bedbug harborages will likely be bagged and the resident asked to launder them before reintroducing them to the room. Thermal treatment preparation directions will typically focus on removing those items that are at risk of damage from high temperatures. These items will include fresh foods, meltable items like art supplies, candles and makeup, medications, living things like plants or pets, and things that are under pressure like hairspray. If closets are overstuffed or the unit is overcrowded with clutter, the resident may be asked to move items from those locations and temporarily store them elsewhere, with proper inspection and other precautions conducted beforehand. Fumigation is a chemical treatment delivered in gas form. This type of treatment requires tenting and a multi-day move out during the course of treatment. Preparation for this treatment would require treatment or inspection of items taken with the residents during their stay away from the unit. Other preparation would include sealing food and medication in special fumigation bags to keep the pesticides out, as well as removing other living things from the site. In general, items suspected of having bed bugs should not be moved or removed from the site until advised by the pest management professional. If you're not familiar with the National Pest Management Association's best management practices for bed bugs, I recommend that you look it up. It lays out the consensus in our industry on what a comprehensive and efficacious approach to bedbug management is. Included in the BMPs are recommendations for bedbug-specific service agreements. The NPMA recommends that bedbug-specific agreements contain a proposed schedule of service, a description of the services to be provided and the areas to be treated, a description of client responsibilities, some limitations of liability, and exclusions for damages to mattresses, furniture, bedding, clothing, and other infested items. The NPMA also recommends that your service provider keep detailed records on the services provided and technicians' findings. These records should include details of what actions were taken, a description of pest findings. Where were the bed bugs? How many? What life stage did they find? Were they adults or nymphs? Service records should include the level of resident cooperation. Did the resident comply with the preparation directions? As well as the conditions of the site that are conducive or beneficial to bed bugs, such as clutter, peeling wall coverings, cracks and crevices, and missing electrical plates. And finally, the specific recommendations to resolve these conditions. PMPs, or pest management professionals, are trained and licensed pest control technicians. They know the behavior and biology of pests and the proper selection and use of tools for treating them. They can be super, but they don't have superpowers. A technician treating bed bugs will need to move heavy furniture to get to where the bed bugs are, or use heavy equipment to force the treatment into those locations. To safely do this work day in and day out, technicians will typically work in teams of at least 2. These teams should display empathy with the resident to help them communicate and to establish a professional working relationship. Treatments are seldom one-time visits. At minimum, a follow-up re-inspection should be expected to monitor for further activity post-treatment and to determine if additional treatments are required. Before you get bed bugs or after you've dealt with them, stay vigilant. Your property is at risk of getting bed bugs anytime. Assemble your team now. Educate them on the risk of bed bugs and what they should do if they suspect they get them. With AB 551 in place, you now have a reason to proactively educate your residents on bed bugs, even if your property has never had them. When your residents move out, do what you can to make sure they did not leave bed bugs behind and make changes to your units to fortify them against bed bugs. Please reach out if you have any questions or need help with managing bed bugs at your properties. Thanks for listening. I look forward to the panel discussion to come.